Respected elders, educationists, dear teachers, and dear students, welcome. In this class, we are going to see how the auxiliary verb must should be reported in indirect speech. How the verb must, auxiliary verb must, should be reported in indirect speech. Here I have given you some four heads, four occasions where we can use must. Yeah, well, how we can report must in the indirect speech. Come. English grammar, direct and indirect speech. Part 9. Verb must in indirect speech. Video 265. Dated 19/5/2024. Direct and indirect speeches. Part 9. Must. Must used for deduction, permanent commands, prohibition, and to express intention remains unchanged. That is, when must is used to refer to deduction, permanent command or prohibition, or to express intention, must is normally kept unchanged. Example, deductions. She said, I am always running into him. He must live near here. She said that she was always running into him and added that he must live near there. It is here must live. That is the auxiliary must have been kept unchanged. Other things have been changed as per the rules. Here must live. Other things we have changed as per the rules. She said, I'm always running into him. He must live near here. She said that she was always, am always running. She was always running into him. Connection and added, he must live near there, here, there. So when must is used for deduction, must normally remains unchanged. Then permanent command. He said, this door must be kept unlocked. This door must be kept locked. This is the permanent command. He said that that door must be kept. That is, must have been reported unchanged. He said this door must be kept locked. He said that that door must be kept locked. Then third, must used casually to express intention. When must is used to express intention, must remains unchanged. He said, we must have a party to celebrate this. He said that we refers to they must have a party to celebrate that. He said, we must celebrate this. He said that they must celebrate. They have to celebrate. They must have to, he said, we must celebrate this. Said that they must celebrate. Must. I mean, we must have. He said, we must have. He said, they must have. He said, we must have to celebrate this. He said that they must have to celebrate. No change. Must have, must. But when must is used to give advice, when must is used to give advice, must can either be kept unchanged or must can be changed into would have. I mean, or must can be replaced and advised can be used as the reporting one. That is, when must is used to express advice, must can be kept unchanged. Must can be kept unchanged or must can be replaced by the reporting word advised. He said to me, you must read this book. He told me that I must read that book. That is the verb must. Must have been kept unchanged. Or we can use, he advised me to read that book. He advised me to read that book. That is, when must is used to express advice, must can be kept unchanged. Must can be kept unchanged, or must can be replaced by the reporting verb advised, and can be reported in imperative. That is, when must is used to express advice, must can be kept as it is when it is used in a statement. When it is used as an imperative, then the must should be replaced by the reporting verb told. I mean advised. He said to me, you must read this book. He told me that I must read that book. He advised me to read that book. In either way, it could be expressed. Second, must use for obligation can remain unchanged or can be reported by would have to. When must is used for obligation, the must can be kept unchanged or must can be replaced by would have to. If the floods get worse, we must leave the house, he said. He said that if the floods got worse, they must leave, would have to leave the house here, must have been changed into would have to. That is, when must is used for obligation, must can be kept unchanged or must can be replaced by would have to. Both the form can be used. Here I have given replacing must by would have to. If the floods get worse, we must leave the house, said he. He said that if the floods got worse, they would have to leave the house. Then it's on the third. We must is reported by had to. When I must, when I must or we must is reported by had to. Had to is the usual form for obligation, where times for fulfillment have been fixed. That is, in obligation, that is a duty. When the time is fixed, then must should be replaced by had to. He said, I must wash my hands. He said that he had to wash his hands. Another example, Umar said, I must be there by 9 tomorrow. Umar said that he had to be there by 9 the next day. Note, when the obligation is self-imposed and there is no outside authority, would have to can be used. It is when the time is fixed, we must use had to for must. But when there is no outside authority who can use would have to for must. Kumar said, I must meet my mother tomorrow. Self imposed. Kumar said that he would have to, would have, would have to meet his mother the next day. That doesn't matter. That is where as must have been used to express is the self-imposed obligation. Must have been replaced by would have to. Must would have to. Kumar said, I must meet my mother tomorrow. That he heard, that is, have, he would have to meet his mother the next day. But if there is any confusion, where we have to use must or would have to, where we have to use had to or must have to, who can simply use must without any change. There is a provision for that also. So, in third, I must, we must. In I must, we must, when must is used to refer when the time is given, when the time for fulfilling the action is given, then must should be replaced by had to. But when the obligation is self-imposed, who can use would have to for must. If there is any confusion, who can use must in both the cases, then would must, you must, he must, they must. You must, he must, they must can also be, the must can also be reported as we did in example 3. That is, must can be kept unchanged or must can be replaced by had to or must can be replaced by would have to. But when the time is given, when the time is fixed for doing an action, then must should be replaced by had to. Otherwise, we can keep the must unchanged or would have. So he said, you must start at once. He said that she must start at once. Here there is here the speak. I mean here that has not been given. So we can use any person, first person, second person, third person, singular person for you. He said you must start at once. He said that she must start at once. He said that she would have to start at once. He said that she had to start at once. So any one of the three forms must can be kept unchanged, or must can be replaced by had to, or must can be replaced by would have to. My dear students, say the use of must in indirect speech. How we should report must in indirect speech. I have given here four examples. There is one when must is used for used for detection, permanent command or prohibition, or to express intention. Must is normally remains unchanged. When must is used for obligation, I mean detection, permanent command, or to express intention. Must normally remains unchanged. But When must is used to express advice, must can be kept, must can be reported and changed, or must can be replaced by, that is when must is used to express, to give advice, must can be kept and changed, or must can be replaced by the reporting with advice. See, example, he said, you must read this book. He said to me, you must read this book. He told me that I must read that book, unchanged. He advised me to read that book, imperative. So, when must is used to give advice, must can be kept unchanged when it is expressed in a statement. When it is expressed in an in imperative, when it is expressed in imperative, then must should be replaced by the reporting verb advised. So, okay. Then second, when must is used for obligation, must is used for obligation. When the time is fixed for doing an action, then must should be replaced by had to. When the time is fixed, then must should be replaced by had to. See, he said, you must finish this work by 5. The time is given. He said that I must or you must, that I had to finish this work by 5 p.m. He said that you must finish this work by 5. He said that I had to finish this work by 5. So when the time is fixed, had must should be replaced by had to normally. But when the command is, but when the obligation is self-imposed, must can be replaced by would have to. He said, I must meet my mother by 9 tomorrow. He said, I must meet my mother by 9 tomorrow. Self imposed obligation. He said that he would have to meet his mother by 9 the next day. So, when the time is fixed and it is and it is because of the outside authority, then her must should be replaced by had to. Must should be I mean reported by had to. But when it is but when the obligation is self-imposed, must can be replaced by would have. But if there is any confusion, it is told, if there is any confusion in finding out it, you can simply use must unchanged. That's all. Similarly, you must, he must, they must can be reported as we saw earlier. You see, he said, you must meet me tomorrow. He said that I must meet him the next day. Or he said that I would have to meet him the next day. Or he said that I had to meet him the next day. In either way, must can be kept, must can be kept unchanged, or must can be replaced by would have to, or must can be replaced by had to. But when the if the time is fixed for an action, then it is better to use had to. So, okay. So, my dear students, in this class we are given, as I felt it is important, that is, where we are, so normally we are thinking, this, I have in the early classes, I have also advised that change must in had to when we report must in indirect speech. But there are so many rules. So, four rules I have given here. When we so where we have to kept must unchanged, and where we have to use had to or would have to or must. Okay. So four examples I have given. Use it exactly. Respected elders, educationists, dear teachers and dear students. I thank all of you for watching this class, for listening to this class. Till I meet you in the next class, I wish all of you a very nice and sweet time. Thank you.